Kriztiankool here once more. Wanting to talk about some more wrestling because pro wrestling is cool, or it wants to be cool if you're TNA. But yeah, hopefully everybody's doing great. Of course, in our video for the community here, we're basically going to talk about AMC, the TNA's AMC debut, and we're going to talk about their Past Genesis pay-per-view that they just had over the weekend. So, pretty much more or less all TNA related with some side NXT, some side WWE stuff, but we're pretty much going to focus on TNA today. And you know, the big week they had more or less. Yeah, hopefully everybody's doing good. Oh, by the way, hello YouTube. For those of you who catch us on YouTube now, let's kind of discuss TNA. They're on TV. They're on a good deal on TV again. It's yay! Yay! All right. Yes. Where TNA is accessible once again to a fair amount of people, and you know, to be fair, TNA has been on the uptrend for the last couple years now. More or less, during the pandemic, they were putting on some good shows. The problem was no one knew those shows existed. And then now that they're in this, they tried to do a partnership with AEW around that time, a little after, and AEW basically took advantage of them for better or worse. I mean, more or less, it did nothing for them to partner up with AEW, and it was kind of a failed experiment. They kicked Scott D'Amore to the curb when they were looking for the future and decided to go with whatever Carlos Silva had in mind because he is now the president. And now they are partnered with NXT, well, WWE, but NXT specifically when it comes to talent exchange and cross promotional shows and interconnected storylines, what have you. And granted, WWE has made a presence on TNA from the main roster as well when it comes from bringing in their talent into the Royal Rumble, onto WrestleMania, when it comes to sending people to TNA, like we'll discuss here at the start of this show. The AMC debut for Impact. This is the first Impact I ever watched in a long ass time. I have not sat down and watched a show of Impact in, God, I can't remember how many years. But this was my first one in a long while. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch some Impact. Because usually I just watch highlights. I don't really catch Impact. So AJ Styles starts the show, comes out, and he doesn't come out with his WWE theme. He actually comes out with "You are, I am," and that's awesome, right? You know, that's, as a TNA fan, that's what you want. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear the WWE theme. So, crowd was happy. AJ Styles said it's the place that he built. Of course, it is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the promo accomplished much of anything, honestly. Like they said so for those of you who don't really see this or have not seen any of my other wrestling videos, I typically have the Bleacher Report up because it's a good fair reference and recapture of all the events that happen. And sometimes we agree with the Bleacher Report, sometimes we don't. But it helps me kind of keep, instead of me having a bunch of notes written down, I can just follow them because all the notes I would have down, they got down. Why should I have to do more work when they could do all the work? No one pays me to do this, so why should I do that much work? Anyways, so yeah, they said it was more like a pep talk than a promo. I kind of agree there. I think it was just to make the fans all feel good that they're watching a TNA show. That's just literally the vibe I got from it. We do get to see AJ more a little bit throughout the show, but here, I'm gonna adjust the camera. There we go. But overall, just it it was what it was, a good little hype start to the show. So we end up getting the Elijah, um, the Elijah experience. Um, that's what I like to call it. But Elijah teams up with the Hardys, goes against Order 4 of Mustafa Ali and his henchmen. Um, they have names, I guess. John Schuyler, Jason Hodge. You would probably not know unless you follow TNA. But yeah, basically Ali and Elijah's been having some beef. Elijah always uprooting Mustafa Ali and picking on him and and taking him out after Ali injured him some time back. So hopefully we'll eventually get the payoff match, which I think we did in Genesis. So we'll talk about that. I just watched Genesis not that long ago. I almost forgot they wrestled. Anywho, this wasn't much of a match, honestly. It was pretty much a quick show off of the Hardys and all basically both these teams. Um, it just it was just it just kind of felt rushed, I should say. It was real quick. Didn't really get to see much of anybody in the ring. And they had a commercial break like literally right in the middle of the match, so I don't know if that took out a big chunk of the match, but because it just felt like the match was over as soon as it began. Um, but yeah, um, yeah. So after the match, the Righteous. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with the Righteous, but trying to think of their name. Vincent and shit. Butch. I think it's Butch. I might hold on. Might be able to correct myself here. Hold on. Dutch. I was thinking Butch, but it's Dutch. Sorry. So Vincent Dutch. They come out. They've been feuding with the Hardys. They actually showed up back or new to TNA as of recent times. A month ago. Starting to feud with the Hardys, getting a little personal with them, getting into their getting their families involved and whatnot. And the Hardys are up to here with the Righteous. So the Righteous come out after the match, take advantage of the Hardys while they're down, and Vincent puts a padlock in Jeff Hardy's earlobe and basically locks Hardy to the corner. I guess I don't know. It was weird. Um, it was a little cringy. I will say that it was cringy, but I mean, those earlobes are pretty beat at this point. I mean, he's got them pretty gauged, and at this, I'm pretty sure a padlock really wasn't that bad. But that's all they did. It looked way worse than it was, I'm sure. But the visual looked all right. Either way, for the start of the show, it's like, okay, cool. We got some guys in the ring. Now they're out of now we're moving on. Styles and Kazarian had a backstage encounter. Um, basically, Kaz basically told off Styles. They have big history together from TNA times, and they're outside of wrestling, they're good friends. So like, um, yeah, I think they are trying to do a tease or something of AJ Styles and Kaz maybe down the road, which would be cool. Um, it is what it is. So next we get Ryan Nemeth came out and wanted to do some GM Miller was doing some ringside interviews with some of the minor celebrities there. When I say minor, I mean real fucking minor. TNA kept hyping up all these like minor celebrities that were there, and oh my god, You think it's bad when WWE goes ahead and like constantly shows you all these random Netflix celebrities or random other like big name celebrities that happen to show up on Raw and they're like, hey, guess what? Real famous people and people that people think are popular actually do come to watch wrestling. Yay! Hey, point at them, they're in the fan. You know, when they do that bullshit, well, they were doing they felt the need to take that a step further and talk to some of the very minor celebrities that were there for TNA show. Minor celebrities in like, I couldn't even tell you any of them, but they were, couldn't tell you a name what they were, but they were from like other AMC shows that I don't watch or I didn't know existed. And they were like pointing out earlier in the night, they were pointing out celebrities, like social media, like um influencers, like wrestling social media influencers that were there live watching the TNA show. And I'm like, really? You're trying to point out influencers that I had no idea who any of these people were unless I was a diehard pro wrestling fan who needed to digest like the lowest of the low content on YouTube or whatever forum. And I, you know, I figured there's so much pro wrestling out there that you don't need to sit there and watch analysts all day, all week, however long to get enough of the hobby that you enjoy. But I guess there is. Yeah, I didn't know who any of these people were. And by the way, I know I'm kind of hypocritical when I say this because I am doing a video as a social media influencer. I do this for my community. If this ever catches wind on YouTube, yay for me, but this is more a community thing I do, hobby interest that I like to do for friends and people I know. So it is what it is. But yeah, TNA made them sound like it was a big deal. They were all there. It was baffling. I'm like, no one cares. Let's move on. But Ryan Nemeth felt the need to come out and be Ryan Nemeth. And in the crowd, of course, was Sarah Mate, um, who's been having this beef with Ryan Nemeth for a while now. And she ends up making sure he gets crushed on the barricade as he was trying to get himself over the barricade to deal with her. And that didn't work out so well for the guy. Oh wow. Tio Morella comes out, talks about the new era, um, talks about his daughter's betrayal, talks about he needs some assistance. Oh dear Lord, he needs some assistance. Everything's been out of his control. So he brings in a new, the board of TNA decided he could use some assistance. So in comes the former Sonya Deville, Daria Ray. This is one of the few good things that happened on the AMC debut, by the way. A lot of people on the online did shit all over the AMC debut for certain reasons or another. There were reasons that this show didn't work out, as well as Genesis was out of their control. There was talent that couldn't be there, mostly Leon Slater, that could not be there due to visa issues. Also because of TNA's mishandling of how well, and when I say well, I mean unwell, how unwell they handle contracts. They recently just lost the Rascals that AEW, and more on the Rascals a little later maybe. But so Daria Ray comes out. Reaction's actually positive. Everybody's happy to see Daria Ray. I was too. I'm like, cool, Daria Ray. Because when I saw Daria Ray, I thought one big thing. I thought Mandy Rose, because her and Mandy Rose are so tight. So I'm like, cool, we might eventually see Mandy Rose. Which I'm fine with Mandy Rose being on television. She's hot and she's not bad in the ring. If you saw her during her last NXT run, she was she was a pretty good NXT Women's Champion. I was happy to have her there. But yeah, she comes out, she's embracing the crowd a little bit, she's soaking it in. Thanks Santino. Um, Eventually she kind of turns on the crowd and Santino, saying they don't need him, they don't need his dumb jokes. Um, Nobody can respect him if his own daughter won't. Yeah, so they kind of elaborate a little bit on that. Basically, she's the suit, and when the suit talks, you shut up. So that's kind of her stick. And she also had one other thing she decided to do. She announces a signing of a new knockout, and it's the former Cora Jade. It's Elena Black. Remember the girl that said she wanted to take the rest of 2025 off due to mental health and decided to basically do nothing but a bunch of OnlyFans galleries and photos and some, merchandising basically. So yeah, so uh the um the OnlyFans star Elena Black comes out, pretty much stands on the ring looking highly slutty. Um But yeah, I was a fan with Daria kind of suckering the crowd and Santino there. It was fun. She uh It's pronounced Daria. All right, Daria. Okay, so it's Daria. It looks like Daria, but Daria. All right. Bleacher Report reports about the influencers. It was strange to see them sitting in front of a section of empty seats. Yeah, yeah. And we're not gonna discuss. Oh, they had a weird. There was a fair amount of like sprinkled empty seats everywhere. I don't think it was a full. I don't think it was sold out, but it was weird. Just when you looked at some of the shots of the camera and whatnot into the crowd, it's like, why? I wouldn't focus the camera there, guys. The Inspiration versus the Elegance brand. This match was awful. Just downright awful. It was like watching two people try to tie each other's shoe and they kept falling down, or the worst game of Twister you ever watched. Three people play or four people play. It um just there was nothing good to take away from this match. Um, Inspiration, basically, this was their last match. Their contracts were up, and they were done with the brand. They were done with TNA. On this here, like, this is the thing. If you're gonna give anyone TV time for your first Impact, for your first show on a cable network, why would you highlight a tag team? I don't care if they're holding your titles. Why would you highlight a tag team that is on their way out and you don't have them signed to a new contract and they're not signing new contracts? I would have just had them vacate the fucking titles because their contracts went up and had two teams who were on the fucking roster going forward go after the vacated tag titles. To me, that makes more sense. But here, it didn't look like the Inspiration had their heart into doing doing the job, or just you know doing the match. Not only that, the Elegance brand expanded themselves. I figured this brand would collapse in on itself once Ash by Elegance retired. Who was there, by the way, and not adding much to anything really. But they decided to bring in Mr. Elegance, who was some guy. I had to look him up. He's from the Indies. I've never seen this guy before. Never heard of this guy. Um, but I'm sure we'll talk about Mr. Elegance as we talk about more TNA in the future. But yeah, whoever, I forget his name already because I did look him up a couple days ago. He just wasn't interesting. Oh, by the way, Perez Hilton was there to be part of the group. I have no idea why they even brought him in. Like, seriously, again, did not add to anything that they were trying to say or promote at the beginning of before the match started. It was a big wet time eater, this was. And the Elegance brand beat the Inspiration for the titles. Like I said, the match was awful. And of course, they show Zarya and Solruka. See, they could have had Zarya and Solruka go against the Elegance brand and be done with it. But I don't know why they didn't. Like I said, this was a fail. It was awful. Maybe the Inspiration didn't want to just drop the titles. I don't know. But either way, if the Inspiration's contracts are up, the former Iconics from WWE, Jessie McKay, Cassie Lee. I don't know. Maybe they're going back to WWE. Maybe. I don't know. If I'm WWE, I'm not that interested in them. Did you guys? I don't know. Anyone who would have watched this would have been like, those two need to go back to parenting their kids. Like, for real. Like, they did not look like they. And all the recent times I've watched this tag team, they've been unimpressive. Like, I just feel like they're just riding on their name and their notoriety, and they're just phoning it in. In my opinion, they've been phoning it in. I've not been super thrilled watching the Inspiration. So, moving on. Contract signing for the women's for the Knockouts title. For Genesis, Lei Yingli coming out. She's the champion. She's been a fun champion. Danny Luna would have been the one to take her on, who's been really getting a lot of been getting a lot of love, and she's been impressive and interesting to watch over the last couple months that I've been watching. She due to the world visa issues that I mentioned earlier that kept Leon Slater off these events, Danny Luna was also unavailable. So two of their top stars that they would normally promote for this event and going, these events were not available. That is such a fucking blow. But that's typical TNA. So let's move on. Zarya and Solruka show up for the contract signing, and Solruka says, if it's gonna be a warrior versus warrior match, it should be Zarya going against Yingling Yi. Lei Yingli. I keep getting that mixed up. Li Yingli. All right, so it's just just a standard contract. Zarya signed it on Santino's back and stabbed the pen into it and stabbed Santino. I thought that was a cute little segment. So they're like, the weekly injury report is an interesting addition to the show. Obviously, the Bleacher Report has not really watched Impact as of late, or any TNA as of late. But because like I said, I've seen some Impact, but not like I've never sat down and just gave it my full attention like I did here. They have been doing these Bleacher Reports on the pay-per-views, and I guess on maybe it's the first time they've done it on Impact. I don't know, but they normally do them on the pay-per-views. So I'm used to seeing the injury report. So maybe that's what they were commenting, that it's the first time they've done it on Impact in quite some time. But yeah, like I said, that people were having problems on AMC or the streaming feeds. It was kind of glitchy, or just issues were apparent. We had the System. They came out for a quick promo. Then we got a surprise appearance from Dixie Carter, who, that was not on my bingo card for a TNA AMC debut. Let's bring in the owner of TNA during one of its worst eras, Dixie Carter. Yeah, so that was the crowd. Oh yeah, booed the shit out of her. Bully Ray came out because Bully Ray was gonna be a special commentary to the main event here. Gave Dixie a hug for whatever reason. Oh man, I bet it killed him to give him that hug. Basically, and then Kazarian Santana come out. Kazarian is the TNA World Champion, defending against Santana. Before we discussed that, they mentioned how Joe Hendry was added to the Genesis card to replace Leon Slater in the match he was announced for. Um, yeah. I guess if you watch this live, I guess it was a lot of commercials. A lot of commercials. Like we're talking WWE or more levels of commercials. 50% commercials. It was the breaks were long and ridiculous. I watched it through a different feed and didn't have to suffer as much. Nowhere near, but I felt bad. You know, if that is the your normal means of watching this was through the AMC feeds or whatever, and that you had to sit through that many commercials, that's awful. Um. Anyways, the match was a solid match between the two. Um, there was a ref bump. There was something. It was kind of a little weird. The match, you know, for what it was, it was good, but it seemed like it kind of hit a snag at the end. I think there was something going on. I couldn't tell, but I don't know if they botched something or they fucked up like what they had planned for the finish and they had to call something else on the fly. But it just seemed like something was off, and then eventually Santana gets the win on Kaz and wins the TNA World Title, which was weird. And then they end it. But yeah, it was messy. It was a messy start, just a messy show overall. Apparently they ended the show too early and didn't show that Nick Nemeth came out with the trophy, and Santino announced that for Genesis it was going to be a Texas death match between Kaz and basically Kaz was going to get his rematch, and it was going to be a Texas death match against Santana at Genesis. I don't know why it escalated all of a sudden to a Texas death match, um, but I guess Santino says because we're in Texas. Who cares? That doesn't mean it merits a Texas death match, but whatever. I don't know. Either way, there was only 3 matches on the entire 2-hour show. 2-hour show, 3 matches. Yeah, and the only good match really was the main event. Like I said, the 6-man tag was super rushed. The women's tag title match was awful, and the main event, like I said, was back and forth, and the finish was kind of schmozzed. Um, I don't know. If you hadn't watched TNA in a long time and you went and watched this, and this was your first exposure to TNA in forever, you would never come back. Like this was a poor, very poor, like outing. Like I know the visa thing was out of your control, but you do have plenty of other talent, and you had 2 hours. Why in 2 hours couldn't you do more than 3 matches? Like that was awful. I think it was 2 hours, right? I think they had 2 hours. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they had like an hour and a half. I don't know. But to only have 3 matches is awful. And the breaks in between the matches too. Like I said, it felt like the matches weren't super long because they would go to break, and then next thing you know, it felt like they were in a completely different part of the match, and like I had missed like 10 minutes of the match. It was weird. So yeah, like I said, very poor debut on AMC. Oh, it was like I said, pretty a bit cringy, and TNA should have been able to do better. Luckily, they did at Genesis. So let's go to Genesis. So we're coming off the wheels, or the lows of the AMC. Well, the wheels have come here, and are I didn't know what analogy I was trying to do there, but we're coming off the lows of the AMC debut, and we're gonna pick ourselves back up with this Genesis lineup. Um, Apparently, I did not catch the International Championship four-way match because that was on the pre-show. Like, I did not watch the pre-show. But apparently, Lorenzo Stacks defeated Eric Young, BD, and KJ Orso um, to try to get the title from him, and he ended up still winning the title and keeping it. They also had Indy Hartwell and Vicious Vicky. I have never seen Vicious Vicky go against Tessa Blanchard and Milla Moore. Blanchard and Moore went over Hartwell and Vicky. Again, they were both on the pre-show. I chose to not watch the pre-show. I'm not one to watch pre-shows in general, but it's good that TNA had two matches for the pre-show. But I don't know if they really contributed to anything, honestly, but we'll see, I guess, future installments of Impact if they did. So they started Genesis with Rich Swann versus AJ Francis. Basically, this is the breakup of First Class. They had a faction together. Tag team / faction, whatever you want to call it. This was a lot better than any right being, honestly. AJ Francis really did play the big man, beating down the little man well. They did some pretty cool shit in this match. It almost could pass as an X Division match, honestly. But it was super fun, in my opinion. Francis just basically showing his power and ruthlessness, and Rich Swann basically showing he still has swagger. And like I said, they gave it a B. I honestly would probably give it the same grade. It was a very okay, very good. I wouldn't say it was anything that you had to write home about, but it was still a good way to probably kick off this show. It was good. Yeah, that was the thing. It was a longer match than I expected. They said wrestled a long match, kept the crowd invested, and that's why I said I was invested. Like, I thought it would just be a boring plotting Francis beatdown, but no, there was a lot of back and forth. Actually, it was good start. I'm like, okay, cool, better than what AMC did or what they did on AMC. Let's go. Let's get the ball rolling. Elijah versus Mustafa Ali. We mentioned earlier about their feud. This is Elijah's chance to put a nail in it. Unfortunately, this match wasn't super long. It just kind of went back and forth a little bit, but Order 4 interfered during the match. During the distraction, basically Elijah got taken out with the guitar. Ali got the win. Oh wow, they pointed that out. For the second match in a row, a competitor broke up potential top rope move by biting an opponent's arm. Yeah, because Rich Swann bit the arm of AJ Francis, and then Ali bit I might have been like distracted when when that spot happened, so I don't know who bit who, but yeah, that's not something you would see back to back. That's some not great producing there. I'll say that. Um, yeah, honestly, the match was not much of anything. It was just meant to show that Ali needed his entire faction to basically beat Elijah, because Elijah did look pretty impressive, fending everyone off as much as he tried. The Drifter. But anyways, Ali with the win. I imagine this is not the last we'll see of these two. They'll probably accumulate in like some sort of like hardcore match, cage match, something. Who knows? But yeah, with everyone banned, I assumed. So that's kind of how that typically goes. So I'm gonna assume that's where they're going. We had the last dance, JDC versus Eddie Edwards. Basically, this is JDC's last match. He's calling it quits. He's retiring. The former Fandango of WWE fame wanted to have one last match, and with one of his best friends, Eddie Edwards. So they went ahead, had a pretty good match. I was surprised how aggressive JDC was in the start of the match and was trying to like get quick wins against Eddie Edwards. There was some call outs with like the Walls of Jericho and stuff like that, Code Breaker. Like I All right, here's my thing. I get it. JDC's retiring. I get it. You want to make a call out to something because your highest point in WWE, your highest point in your career, merited to a WrestleMania match with the esteemed Chris Jericho. But I get it when like John Cena would make call outs. He's had a long career that everyone is familiar with. AJ Styles making call outs during the John Cena match. AJ Styles has had a long career with a bunch of like that people are familiar with and know about. JDC? Nah, you're not in that ballpark, man. Like, like it was just he made like the Walls of Jericho. Sure, fine, I let it go. Then he did the Code Breaker, and after I'm like, okay, well, aren't you hitting the well a little too much? Like, are you just gonna do everything Chris Jericho did, or because that was like the pinnacle of your career, like your one WrestleMania match with Chris Jericho? Like, I don't know. I just that kind of turned kind of took me out of the match. I'll just say that. Um, but yeah, the down and dirty leg drop got missed. Edwards delivered two Boston knee parties, which eventually the second one succumbed JDC. Um, the crowd was very quiet at the end of this match. Like, okay, but I don't know if it was genuine respect or if it was just kind of disinterest because this match kind of lost me a little bit at the end. Like I said, the constant Chris Jericho odes took me out of the match. Um, Apparently he had a Bray Wyatt tattoo. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that. He did show that off. He also had pretty cool trunks honoring Terry Funk. Um, yeah, a fair amount of the TNA roster was on the entrance, applauding and giving congrats after the match. Um, all the system was wearing JDC shirts. Yeah, that's the thing. There was unfortunately for JDC, he'll be most remembered for his Fandango run. He'll be most remembered for um, his Fashion Files segments with Brizongo, him and Tyler Breeze. Those were entertaining. He'll also be remembered for his last TNA run, working with the system. For those who have been watching TNA for the last couple years or have caught on, he's been, in one of the top factions of TNA since he joined the TNA roster. Um, I guess he wants to focus on family and, you know, he wants to value his life, and that's something that's hard to really have a tight grip on when you're doing a profession like pro wrestling. So totally understand why JDC, even though he looks like he's not ready to retire yet, he's ready to walk off into the sunset. Um, Kind of, it's always bittersweet to see people who could have had it and should have had it and never had it. And that's kind of the story here with JDC. So, and when I say never had it, I mean never got that opportunity. I don't think he ever really got ever a chance to show that opportunity that he could be a main event guy. He was a very entertaining guy. He was, and he was a good hand in the ring. Like, that's the thing. He was not bad to watch in the ring. So, like, I just think WWE never gave him a fair shake. And, yeah, by the time he tried to get his footing in the indies, he's already getting to the point where he's too old for this shit. So, or, where some people say your prime's in your 40s. Well, the guy's, I think, like 42, 43. And like I said, he's newly married, about to start a family. Like, yeah, I think, sometimes it's just best to walk away when you're able and body day, like when your body's able to, as opposed to um an injury forcing you out. So happy to see you know happy to see it happen. So next match, Mara Sade versus Ryan Nemeth. Of course, leave it to TNA to try to have an gender match on their card. It's kind of one of the TNA specialties. Like, you'll see it enough at the indies now that there's intergender matches all through the indies. Um, but like TNA is the only one bold enough to do it on a pay-per-view, or like AEW is starting to sprinkle into it a little bit, but not like much. But like full blown intergender matches, TNA will do them. So yeah, basically, this is just like several minutes of what's his name? Yeah, Ryan Nemeth. I kept wanting to call him by his brother. So Ryan Nemeth. It's several minutes of him basically being this over the top, just annoying heel, basically taunting opponents, beating the shit, you know, pushing her around and showing he has advantage over her, this and that. Um Sade got some good like retribution in there here and there, giving him like some moves like a crossbody or a tornado deity here and there. Um Towards the end, he got her in a position where he kind of drop kicked her off the top ropes, and she fell awkwardly onto the apron, and he rolled her in and hurried up and rolled her up and held onto the ropes for the win. So not only did he need to cheat to win, hold the ropes, but he did it to a woman. It's the idea that he had to do it to a woman in order to beat a woman, you know, which was, you know, I think the match was a little more humorous than it probably should have been. Because don't get me wrong, Ryan Nemeth doesn't really exactly strike me as entertaining for the most part, but like, I don't know. I guess he got me at the right moment here. But yeah, him being able to cheat to win, just like, okay. I was hoping that they were gonna put this, put the nail in the bed here when they had this match set up and Sade was gonna beat him, but nope. They're gonna continue this, and Nemeth with the win over Sade. Um, Yeah. The Bleacher Report says Sade looked like potential star. Yeah, Sade's been looking great since the former Jakar Jackson left NXT and has been on TNA. They've been kind of tooting her as a premier knockout for the brand, and I think that's good. She's been I think for what I've seen of her so far, I think she has that potential, but we'll see if they utilize it correctly down the road. TNA Knockouts Championship match. This is one of the, in my opinion, one of the two matches of the night. Yi Yi and Zarya going back and forth. Of course, as I said, we discussed earlier, Zarya stepping in for Danny Luca. Or Danny Luna, not Luna. Not Lucas. um Danny Luna being her being out, Zarya stepped in, and they went back and forth quite a bit in this match. There was some interruption between the Elegance brand, which Sol Ruka and Zaya Brookside, who were out for their respective partners, took care of the distraction so that the match could continue to take place. Yeah, really enjoyed the match here. they gave it a B plus, probably because of the distraction. I don't think the Elegance brand had to come out for that, like make that distraction. I think it took away from the match a little bit. Like this match was really good, showing off the fighting spirit of Yingli, Lei Yingli, and the tenacity of Zarya. Just yeah, I was into it, and yeah, Lei Yingli ends up getting Zarya um for the finish. And I was surprised she was able to get her up for the Warriors way that she does. I would have probably called a different finish because of size difference. I mean, Zara is quite a bigger opponent, you know, bigger in size, like body size compared to little Lei Yingli. Um, but after the match, Elena Black shows up at the entrance ramp, does the, you know, showing of the title, you know, I'm going after the title, that sort of thing. I would not be surprised if they hot shot and put her right in the title picture and take the title off Lee before she gets injured again. That's my joke. That would be my joke right now because, you know, Cora Jade, unfortunately, has had, well, the former Cora Jade, Elena Black, she's had a lot of injuries in the last couple years, which is why she pretty much got let go out of NXT. Her growth never happened. She just never got better because she was always injured. She picked, I mean, she's an OnlyFans model now, pretending to wrestle at this point, so whatever. Um, we'll see. Um, yeah, that's what they said. The overbooking with the Elegance brand coming out and stuff. It didn't need that. It didn't need that at all. It would have been fine otherwise. Would have been probably the best match of the night, honestly. Would have been. Yeah. They were also hyping about Lee thriving in TNA when they never gave her a chance on the WWE main roster. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Every time uh Lee comes out and, you know, basically gets to do her shit, I actually get a little tear in my eye. I get a little teary eyed because, you know, I can appreciate the, you know, when someone's finally made it, you know, and it's good to see someone who's so optimistic and such a good person like her. Because I've seen some stuff on YouTube with her and whatever else, and that the type of person she is, and she just got the rough end of the deal in WWE. They didn't do good with her in NXT. They kept putting her in failed gimmicks. They bring her to the main roster. They don't do anything with her there. They don't push her, and then they let her go. And I'm so glad that she found herself in TNA. She still does some of the warrior stuff, but she can also like hone in and almost she's down to earth. You can almost see it's like more of a hobby, passion, very passionate hobby that she does the warrior stuff than it is like her being some like warrior from the China from some era of China, you know. She's very much more relatable and easy to like. She's easy to like. She's very likable. Um, I'm starting to enjoy a lot more of her stuff the more I watch her, and one of the more pleasant things to watch in TNA, in my opinion. Yeah. So, uh, Lei Yingli definitely worthy of the Knockouts title, and I'm happy she has it. I'm hoping that she gets to hold it for a bit while, and they don't just immediately give it to Elena Black. Actually, I hope she beats Elena Black at least once. Yeah, hands down, one of my favorites in TNA right now. And this match, like I said, despite the overbooking, was very good. Um, for what it was, like I said, could have been better, but it was good. The TNA World Tag Team match, the Hardys versus the Righteous. Let me say this right now. I've never really been on board with the Righteous. It doesn't matter where they use them at, whether it's Ring of Honor, whether it's NWA, whether it's I think they brought him in the AEW at one point. I don't know. The Righteous just doesn't. I don't know. Their gimmicks are not relatable. And half the time when they tell a story, you can't understand what they're trying to actually accomplish with the storytelling. Like it's just very like me and there's another community member I was watching the pay-per-view with. We were discussing like what is their gimmick? And I'm like, their gimmick is that they're the odd like groupie or family of people that you would see in like slasher films, like maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre or the Devil's Rejects, stuff like that. Like the weird friends or weird groupies or family that basically they're together and they're just weird and out there and they're just gonna harm and they enjoy inflicting pain and they got they go about the world in their own little way, but they're just odd. At the end of the day, they're just odd. And unfortunately, like sometimes that doesn't translate very well to an audience. Sometimes you gotta be a little more direct and hit them on the nose with it, and maybe that's what they kind of should have done. And they started going after the Hardy's families, but it's that just seems like they're trying to show that they're dangerous more than like show that there's some underlying storytelling that needs to unfold. Like it just it just doesn't it did not seem like it's just it's hard to piece together what they're trying to the story that they're trying to tell here for the last couple weeks. Um the match itself wasn't anything to write home about. But yeah, basically the end of the match, Dutch was grabbing the mic saying something that this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted to hurt. And throughout the match, you constantly see them telling the Hardys, "We're sorry we're having to do this. We didn't want to do this." Like, why do they not want to do this? Like, tell us, make us understand why you have the motive. Like, when you don't have a basis for the motive doesn't matter when it comes to a plot. When it comes to a plot, shelling out plot devices. Like, I just couldn't grasp what I was trying to watch, and it just didn't matter to me. Um, It was weird that Dutch grabbed the titles and handed them to the Hardys. I'm assuming they're gonna feud more, but it will like the problem. I don't know. The problem with their storytelling is that sometimes if you're trying to be real cryptic with it and you're trying to like interlace plot pieces and then you get to a point where you're supposed to put them all together and it tells this like resounding like gives you this resounding epiphany of like, oh my god, this is what they were going for all this time, this is what was up, you know one of those moments. This is almost akin or similar to some of the Bray Wyatt stuff that he tried years ago. um, Sometimes that doesn't work, especially on a program where you're expecting the audience to watch each and every week. That's the thing. If the audience watched each and every week and caught all the pay-per-views, sure, then you could probably tell the sort of story. But if people, the casual audience or the viewer that you're usually going to get for TNA or just anywhere, any pro wrestling show, if you're expecting someone to tune in all the time to the show, and I don't mean catch highlights, I don't mean just show up for the big show and watch the promo, because the promo is not going to encapsulate everything going on. They'll get the crib notes. This is the sort of storytelling that just doesn't exactly work for this sort of platform. So I yeah, what they say, while stories take time to tell, TNA will have some semblance of explanation for what's going on with the righteous before it becomes so overly complicated that fans become annoyed rather than. So this is basically what I was elaborating. Because it got to the point where the fans were like chanting Dutch to shut up because of the fans were just like annoyed. They just wanted the match to end because like the match was just kind of like, what are, because the fans were trying to figure out what they were watching, honestly, throughout the entirety of the show until the Hardys just won the titles or, kept the titles. Anyways, we'll see what they do to follow up with this, but my God, it just, my guess, they're going to use the righteous to try to open up the broken universe, which is a possibility, but is that something that we're looking for? Is that people, does anyone want that? I don't know. I don't know. All right. Three-way attraction here. Joe Hendry versus Moose versus Cedric Alexander. This is the match of the night. This was supposed to be X Division title match with Leon Slater instead of Joe Hendry. Hendry taking his place due to the visa issues. Um, this was a pretty enjoyable back and forth three-way affair. Early on, Moose took a spot on the steps and was out of the match for a bit, and basically came back into the match working like he was pretty effed up on his backside was pretty effed up. But it was a good showing there. It was entertaining because otherwise they had to do something to like they had to have a hook or something for this triple threat match because this triple threat match meant nothing other than it was like an attraction match due to the fact that Leon Slayer was out and they had to put Joe Hendry in. They gave Joe Hendry the win, which is fine. Because if you're gonna have because Leon Slayer was on they showed him on a like a video earlier before the match, basically saying he's gonna give a title match Moose, title match Cedric Alexander. So you don't want either of them getting momentum going in. So yeah, you have to have Hendry take the win. Also, it probably something that WWE probably said. Um, WWE's probably like, hey, Hendry has to go, or which probably was the best call, anyways. But um, yeah, then I guess they were worried about Cedric Alexander eating the pin. Um, when Moose had the back injury and he could have pinned Moose, and that was a built-in excuse. I don't know. I don't think this pin was going to hurt anybody. It was a showcase fight, so honestly, it was what it was. But it was an enjoyable match to watch for for the fact that they had to makeshift change it on the fly. Texas Deathmatch, TNA World Title, Santana versus Kazarian. Nick Nemeth is the special guest referee. That was the other. That was the other thing about the calling of the Texas Deathmatch at the end of Impact that no one got to see. Um, Daria, Daria Ray came out and announced that Nick Nemeth would be the special guest referee. Um, so a Texas death match or any sort of like death match in TNA, it basically this was a false count or a last man standing, if you want to call it that. The only difference with the last man standing in TNA is that you do a 3 count on your opponent and then or make them tap out. And the second you let go or you get the pinfall, the ref will start counting the 10. And if they can't get up by 10, then the match is over. So instead of having a million like 10 counts throughout the match and the match just ploddingly slow and litanied with 10 counts, they just they it's They only do it after a pinfall or a submission, which makes the match flow so much better. So much better. Way better. Overall, I thought this match was a pretty tame. Because we've been seeing like death matches in AEW, and they could be pretty brutal and pretty intense with some of the stuff they did. TNA was playing it a bit safe here. There were some interesting spots for those of you who hadn't seen it, but like Santana did like a pile driver on the two steel chairs to Kaz. Kaz did a cutter onto a table to Santana. Um, there was a barbed wire baseball bat involved that got a little action. Santana ended up beating Kazarian with a spin the block with barbed wire on his arm. Namath hit the once Santana won and beat Kaz. Namath tried to take advantage by hitting his danger zone on him, and he was going to call in his shot and cash in the trophy they had to try to get a match with Santana. But Santana eventually got up, and before a ref could come out and start the match, Santana got up and did a spin the block to Namath to pretty much end the night, which kind of closed out the show. I thought that was kind of a weird, bland way to like eliminate Nick Namath from calling in his shot, but I guess that's what they wanted to book. Um, but yeah, they agreed with me. The match never really lived up to the Texas Death Match stipulation. Like I said, I thought it was a little tame. The crowd did seem into the match, and that's I'll give them that as well. I will. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was something to mention. The Namath was wearing like these really short, tight shorts. Like he was wearing a ref, the typical like a ref like get up, but then like he was wearing these really tight like black and white shorts. It really was a callback to some HPK with that gear. It was it was what it was, but yeah, like I said, this match was like I said, I think it could have been a little more like intense, but it was what it was. The end of the day, the show was fun. It was a much better show than the AMC outing. Um, it didn't really. I don't feel like it really wasted my time at all. I'm still kind of like reserved about a few things with going forward when it comes to like how TNA is going to handle their contracted talents going forward. The Righteous and Hardy feud, not sure where that's going. And also like their continued NXT and collaborations. When is TNA gonna win the any of the NXT titles again? You know when is Leon Slater gonna eventually, like right now, if I could tell you right now, um Leon Slater's been doing SmackDown while he's in Europe, while WWE's been doing shows in Europe. Obviously, like I said, can't come to the US due to visa problems, but WWE was in the US over the course of the last week or so. So they're like, "Hey, Leon Slater, come work some shows for us." And last week's SmackDown, he challenged Carmelo Hayes for the US title and has X Division title on and everything. Yeah. So they've been highlighting TNA on the main roster, highlighting Leon Slater, their number one star on the main roster outside Santana. Leon Slater's their number one star, and he's been all over the place in WWE. Like, pretty much he's getting the Joe Hendry treatment, like Joe Hendry got before he became like main roster material. So like Leon Slater, I think is once his contract's up in TNA, he's WWE bound for sure. Easily. Like, and he's very talented. Like, he's very real on the mic. He's very believable. The kid's only 21. 20 fucking one. Very real. Very akin to Javon Evans in a way. I feel he's more. I feel he's got. Well, he's been training and wrestling since he's been 9. So, like, I feel he's got a lot more experience. He has a lot more experience, but he's more mature about what he does in pro wrestling as opposed to, like, I think it's Javon Evans where he's still growing and figuring that maturity out as he goes. I think Leon Slayer's kind of already there. Um, but yeah, it's going to be great to see Leon Slayer represent the brand at least for a little bit before his contract's up. They need him there. They need him there for to help with the push. Um, so other things that'll help TNA and this developments of tonight very much kind of sparked my intrigue. The whole apparently Gunther told AJ Styles on Raw that the only way AJ Styles is going to get a match with him at Royal Rumble was if he put his career on the line. And AJ went to Pierce and said he was willing to do that. So I'm starting to think, and this is what's going on in my mind, I'm starting to think that, a lot of fans are worried, or a lot of people are like complaining, it's like, oh shit, AJ's already going to call it quits at the beginning of 2026. No, here's what's going to happen. AJ's gonna. I feel this is maybe the route they're going. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it's not, and it continues into WrestleMania. But I think AJ Styles either he's gonna wrestle Gunther, and he's either gonna beat Gunther here, and then they have a rematch at WrestleMania, or he loses the Gunther here to start working TNA for the rest of the year, and he kind of does what Cena does, except for TNA. He has his one last year of wrestling, but he does it in TNA. I feel like that is possibly the route they're gonna go. If they don't do it at the after the Royal Rumble, I feel like they're gonna do it at WrestleMania. I feel like at WrestleMania, if they do prolong the feud to WrestleMania, or even Elimination Chamber for that matter, I feel like Gunther is just gonna be like, I don't know. I just feel like he will only fight as long as people put their careers on the line, or because he's the career killer, right? That's what he's gonna establish himself as. So, I mean, and why not? You could run with that longevity for a bit because of so many people being up in that at that tier at that time where they're almost at that time where they want to walk away, they want to be done with pro wrestling on the main roster right now. That you could ride that gimmick for a good while. So I could see Gunther doing that. I almost called him Walter. Um, but yeah, that is my prediction for AJ Styles. I see him eventually making his way to TNA to finish out the year or whatever part of the year that he's going to finish and have his match with Kazarian, have his match with whoever else, Leon Slater. I know he wants one with Leon Slater. I know Leon wants one with him. And whoever else on the roster, whoever he decides, maybe he ends up winning the world title one more time. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised. Either way, it would be awesome to have people were talking about, oh, what would it be like if Chris Jericho, because people have been talking about maybe what happens if they have Chris Jericho come on TNA for a short run, this and that. That would do them wonders with their new AMC deal. No, better yet, what if they have the motherfucking guy who made the place, AJ Styles, do his retirement tour on TNA? You want to see AJ Styles retire? Turn in the AMC and watch TNA. That would be the number one way to really get people's eyes on the product, WWE adjacent to TNA. That is how you do it. That is how you do it. WWE fans are all now more or less familiar. He's the guy that ran TNA. He is from TNA. And they've seen AJ Styles over the last several years. Yeah, they might go to AMC or keep up with AMC and watch TNA now. Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that? And then that's one less spot AJ has to hog up on the main roster. Not saying he's hogging or really holding a spot from another person or a up and comer, but it would relinquish can't speak. It would relinquish that spot for someone up and coming or whoever else for the main roster. Because there's only so many spots at the top in any given promotion. And with TNA, I think WWE is using, likes that TNA is not only a bit of a feeder system, but it's a place where people can work in a different environment. It's a place where some of their other talent could go and do some shows, get some exposure, and it would be smart, again, because WWE be paying AJ Styles anyways. Just have AJ work TNA and be the big guy there and get viewership there for TNA while they help elevate their other talent on their main roster. Like, it's a win-win. Like, Gunther beating AJ Styles and retiring AJ Styles to have him go to TNA is a win-win for everybody. Like, if they don't do this, they're dumb. They are absolutely dumb. Now, do I feel that it would be smart to have them wait out till WrestleMania to have him go to TNA? Probably. Because why not have him retire on the biggest show, WrestleMania? That would make more sense. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, there's not much else to kind of go over at the moment. I know AEW's been kind of doing some interesting things with. Oh yeah, that's been something of interest in my mind. I've been wondering, or when MJF won the world title, I was really curious, very curious, what his shtick was gonna be, being the AEW champion. And I guess his shtick is the fact he's going to be the best AEW champion that there is, and he's going to defend that everywhere, not just AEW. He's defending it in different indies, working different indie promotions, and putting his title on the line at just random indie promotions with other talent. And then not only that, MJF is then handshaking these people and telling them that they have an opportunity to come to AEW and work a contract. Like, he is actually being an ambassador while being their champion, going to different promotions as scout, whether talent is pre-scouted or he is scouting the talent himself. He is looking and, finding people and wrestling them and then offering them opportunities at AEW to, advance their careers, which is super cool. That he's willing to represent his brand in that sense, and that AEW is willing to do that. And not only that, being able to build a kind of a grassroots, like, um what's the word I used earlier? Feeder system, a grassroots feeder system from other random indies or whatever, to get talent to want to work towards AEW. Like, this is genius. Honestly. I mean, you have all sorts of people working indies and getting hurt. The possibility of getting hurt's always there. It just is. But MJF doing that and not being on TV each and every week leaves, keeps him, from being overexposed, which is a hard thing to do on modern day wrestling. And that is something like any wrestling company needs to, like, figure out how to do, is keep people from being overexposed. Um, but yeah, it allows that to be a thing. And then, like I said, he's still, in ring shape and ready to go when when the big matches come up and the big shows for AEW. Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Um, Then I've been also loving the Tony Storm antics on AEW as well. They just don't stop. I'm really waiting for her one-on-one match with Maria Shafir. When is that going to happen? I want to see it. Oh man, I'm actually very excited for that women's match. Very excited. WWE, the Royal Rumble's in 2 weeks. 1.5 weeks. 1.5. Oh, just under 2 weeks. Whatever. Very interesting developments with the AJ Styles Gunther match. Of course, we just went over that. I know Raw just. I saw some bits on Raw earlier. Natalia went heel on Maxine Dupree. What else happened? Finn Balor challenged for the world title against CM Punk, fell short. When are they gonna fucking elevate Finn Balor to the point where like he was over like Rover? Now, don't get me wrong, he was in Belfast, but no, everybody in the US, I can guarantee you, would want to see him doing his old shtick that made him popular in NXT with the music, the demon, everything. People would like, people are so tired of the Judgment Day fatigue. Let's move on. Like, keep Judgment Day around as an ever evolving stable. Sure, because that's what's been all these years. But Finn Balor needs to exit and needs to go. Just have him go. Have Mysterio basic, dude, if Judgment Day just ended up being seriously at the end of the day, if it just ended up being Dominic Mysterio running the group with a bunch of women, they call themselves the Judgment Day, I'd be cool with it. I'd be cool with it. Like Dominic Mysterio with a whole harem of women, literally as his stable. Yeah, it'd be what like you. What else would you call it? I mean, that's what it looked like when he beat John Cena for the fucking Intercontinental title, right? Just looked like he had women constantly coming in and helping him out. Not that JD McDonough's a woman, but you know, maybe he could pass if he shaves. I'm kidding. Kidding. Um Either way. I would love to see Finn Balor back as the NXT black and gold Finn Balor of old and be able to do his shtick and, you know, have some great matches, have some great entrances. You know, that's a great entrance, by the way. The Finn Balor entrance, that's a great entrance. Fuck you, Jey Uso. Fuck your entrance. Fuck your singles career. Get fucked. All right. Anyways, that was maybe a bit visceral. Um, yeah, I don't think there's anything else to ramble on about. We don't know much else about the Royal Rumble other than the Rumble matches. We're probably going to feature some NXT people, probably some TNA people as well. Wouldn't be surprised. I know a lot of people are set to make returns. Probably will happen at the Royal Rumble, but I'm sure they'll sprinkle those returns in to keep people interested in watching Raw and SmackDown. Because, let's face it, the booking of those shows have not been great. So, um, yeah, I think I will call it here. Thanks for tuning in, watching these wrestling bits. I enjoy doing them and discussing it, and I know the people in my community's been enjoying watching them. So thanks, guys, and yeah. Until the next one, which I think would be AEW still doesn't have a pay per view for a while, but I feel like I'm gonna have to find a time to do an AEW one. I'll figure that out. But I know my next one will probably be the Royal Rumble, so that will probably be the next time I do one of these vids. So, anyways, keep watching pro wrestling. It's a good time for pro wrestling. Um, TNA is not a bad product. Go check them out. Hopefully, they keep trending upward. And that's all we can hope for in the pro wrestling industry, this hobby that we all love and enjoy to digest. So, again, I'll see you all later. Take care.